Hello, welcome to the Diablo podcast. I am your host, Flux, and we are online at diabloinkgamers.com. I have a little bit of a cold, so my voice is horrible, and hopefully the guests will pick up the slack and talk more than me because I sound like the before or possibly the after of Asmodan's voice dubbing. I'm joined this week by Xanth
Hoy hoy.
and by Rankil.
Greetings.
Is it Rankil or Rankill?
I pronounce it Rankil. I think we went over this the first podcast when you introduced me, and I was saying it's Rankill, but I don't know. I should probably ask the guy who wrote the Dragonlance novel I ripped it out of. So,
Yeah, do you ever actually say it aloud though? So
I say Rankil. That's pretty much how I would say it.
it's probably like the all the Diablo 3 community managers. They have these names that exist only to be read.
Yeah.
They can't actually be pronounced. So
Right.
Some of
Like when I met Lilia, I had to ask her. I'm like, how do I even say that? And it took her like three times, and I still don't think I can say it properly.
can you spell it?
There's a couple L's and a Y and some R's.
Okay, that's a no. So, recent play stuff. Have you, I question for you, Xanth. Have you been having
Yes.
trouble finding larger and larger things to run around as your victory laps continue?
Yeah.
So you hit Paragon
Oh.
100 with your Witch Doctor like 2 months ago, and
Um.
since then you've just basically been playing Hearthstone and
Yeah.
gloating.
After I hit Paragon 100, Reaper Souls was announced, and it was kind of tough to kind of just jump in and know that that journey from 1 to 100, which is already lengthy enough, would maybe be deemed kind of fruitless because who knows what's going to happen necessarily with whatever was gained along the way, or is there necessarily a point in accumulating wealth anymore? I've kind of been slow in coming back. Got my monk back to 60, and um, I think is resting very comfortably at Paragon 2, which
Ooh.
is, yeah, I know, it's pretty
You're living
impressive.
dangerous.
I know, I feel pretty awesome with that. But what I've really been doing in game has just been spending a lot of gold on stuff because I'm really on the side that gold isn't going to hold nearly as much value, and I don't need to be hoarding, close to 1 billion gold anymore because, I'm hoping that with the drop system, and with the lack of an auction house, that there's going to be something else that's going to kind of alleviate that burden, and I can just kind of play around and have fun as opposed to just kind of waiting for some sort of rainy day, which I'm in the mindset like even with Reaper Souls, if there was an auction house, I would have been still hoarding my gold and always kind of keeping myself in check, which is a conservative way to play, and it's been kind of nice to play on the opposite end of that spectrum. And then you're right. I've also been playing a lot of Hearthstone because it's actually pretty fun, which I really did not expect. So that, when I've got a little bit of time, it's very easy to kind of get sucked into it.
It's almost like Blizzard knows what they're doing, making casual, friendly, accessible, fun, lifetime to master games.
I know.
Have you played any Hearthstone, Rankil?
Yeah, actually, I think it was like a week and a half ago. I got a beta invite, and I've kind of primarily been playing it now just because it's that new and fresh game. But I mean, personally, I'm not a huge trading card kind of fan, but the draw to me, I guess, into the game is that you can keep playing it, and eventually you can kind of, in a way, like get the cards that you want without having to really shell out a whole bunch of money. That's pretty much why I never played Magic the Gathering because all my friends would say like, "Oh, I spent $50 on a pack of cards for like a tournament I was playing or something," and I'm like, "That sounds pretty lame." And it's like, what do you have like cartons of cards that are worthless? So, um, but no, I've been playing that. Getting into Diablo every once in a while. I get on the console, do some little farming runs, try and do key stuff and like Uber runs, and doing the same on PC with my self-found hardcore guys, which are now, I could actually say they are not self-found hardcore anymore. So I bought items and put them on them. I still kind of every once in a while go back to farming with them with the same self-found gear, but when I was running Ubers, I did like it was like an MP5 Uber run with some friends because my the only other guy who was holding out and still doing the self-found hardcore deal with me, he was doing the Paragon grind, and he didn't want to pretty much go through because it's like he knew he was going to get to Paragon 100, but it was just going to take him so much longer to do it. So he kind of caved in and bought things off the auction house, and I basically did as well. So, and it's kind of the same thing, like, you're saying with the fact that pretty much the gold and everything else that I'm holding on to right now, especially since if the ladders are true and they're going to be coming out, like it doesn't really matter the wealth that I'm holding unless I guess convert it to forum gold or something else. But yeah, I just kind of see no need to really hold on to all that stuff. So I bought a few items here and there, which really wasn't that much. But I improved my guy by like 15,000 damage or something like that, and a lot of resist. So it's pretty nice. It was like for only a few million gold too, so I didn't do any like big spending. But
Yeah, that's not even getting your feet wet. You gotta be below the B club like Xanth's been doing.
oh, I know.
So it's kind of ironic that you're playing the console also, Rankil. I'd imagine it was hard not to compare the two. So you have a self-found PC and a self-found console character,
Yeah,
and you're
I still
looking at
not all
and
of
the
the
con.
guys are self. They're some the only
Well,
like
you
witch doctor.
had.
Yeah, like the witch doctor and my monk are the only ones that aren't self found really, I guess anymore. But like the other two guys that I have are still self found, but I just really don't play them that much.
So you had, whatever class on the PC and on the console, self-found, and they're both Paragon 20 or something like that. I imagine it was impossible to look at them and say, okay, the console one has got, 140,000 more DPS and 87,000 more hit points or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was, but it's kind of weird too because the Paragon leveling on console is extremely slower compared to PC. I mean, it's just really weird that I don't know what they did as if it's having something to do with the reduction of the density that they had or something else. But I mean, there's still zones that are pretty good in the way in the console. It's like Act 3 is still the best zone because they reduced even though there is you go to the master level, you get the increased density. It's not as dense as it is in as it is on the PC. So I think it just kind of has to deal with the lack of the density. And I mean, there's guys, I don't even think anyone legitimately has hit Paragon 100 yet, at least from streamers and stuff that I've seen. I think they're in their 80s. So,
Yeah, but I was asking about the gear because you
well,
said you just recently gave in on not being self-found on the PC. I'd imagine it was just an obvious disparity.
I mean, it is, but it really what it is when you're taking the monster power levels, you're just, adjusting. It's kind of in a way of which there was something I think there was with part of the data mine stuff with the difficulty levels and shrinking the numbers, and consoles kind of did that too. To really like the master levels are really all you have, so there's 5 difficulty levels. But it's like when you have 10 monster power levels, it doesn't really matter, I guess, what your gear is. You're killing stuff and you're killing it fast. And if you want to kill stuff faster, you just bump down the monster power level. So to me, it's kind of like, I mean, I know there's a more efficient level of doing it where you want to kill on the highest level to get the most efficiency and everything else. But with how adjustable the game is, it's, you know, really you're getting the same experience and it's just a matter of seeing bigger numbers and that's about it. So it was kind of, I mean, but I don't see myself definitely getting still near to the level of time that I put into my console characters. I mean, it's you can never compare to that, but it does eventually start slowing down, which it kind of is. Where it was instead of it being like several times in a run, I was finding upgrades. It's like I would run several runs now and not find an upgrade for my characters. So
Yeah, that's a whole topic we're gonna get to later on about that article I wrote with Katniss this week about what's the benefit of the mid game if all you ever want are upgrades and self found. But before we get into there, I was wondering how you're doing a little console, Xanth. You were live tweeting it one day last week. Have you gotten into it? Is it fun, or
Um,
do you like are you like level 3 and you don't care?
and we got through midway through Act 3. Uh,
Who's we? How big a group? Were you in couch rules,
uh,
and what classes are you playing?
it was Couch Rules. It was a friend of mine who had never played Diablo before, and I was able to kind of hook him with that concept. Like, hey, we'll sit down, we'll play, and we've played video games and what have you together before. So just kind of suggesting a new game to play. I went with a monk. He went with a barbarian, um, and I, I definitely have to say I had a good time. The one thing that was frustrating me was the fact that I've played it and I know Act 1 and Act 2 and Act 3 to death, whereas, my friend who's sitting there, didn't. So, like, I felt the need to rush through everything because I've done it so many times, especially playing hardcore, where you've re-rolled over and over and over and over again. Whereas he kind of wanted to sit and, like, hear some of the dialogue and it's like, all right, that guy's just going to yell at you about something. This, you got to go kill his wife. We're going to be fine. Let's just keep going. So it was kind of hard to take the go, go, go mentality I've had for a long time. and slow down a little bit with him. Um, but overall, I mean, it was a cool experience. It's definitely something will kind of make more a regular thing to sit down and play. Um, but after playing it, I don't think it was anything that would ever make me kind of be like, oh, well, I'm never going to go back to the PC. Because in the back of my mind, I was just thinking, yeah, this is fun, but I really do enjoy the pacing of the PC game because it's very different when you're sitting next to somebody and you're kind of going with them as opposed to just at the pace you want to go at.
Did you go far enough to notice any differences in the loot 1.5? Or are you too low level
I
still?
think I like I said the we only got through midway through Act 3, so there was nothing that was really sticking out to me. It was kind of getting used to the new systems and like equipping things and finding skills and the quick equip and stuff like that. It's kind of cool but I don't know. I wasn't as nearly as invested in the character as mine, so I guess I wasn't as conscious of the new drops. Nothing. It felt like it was taking a lot longer, at least from the PC, to kind of get better gear. But after playing for a year and a half with a massive stash, I'm very used to being able to just go to an auction house if I was too low of level to get anything that would compensate. So I guess I would need to be able to truly compare it to starting completely, truly fresh, which I haven't done in forever.
Do you recall when you first got on the console, Rankil, and how long it was till you noticed a big difference in self finding and stuff?
I mean, it was just a matter of like seeing a lot of legendaries, as I was leveling up. Because, if you remember back, by the time I got to 60, I had some like 30 some legendaries that I had found or something along the lines of it. So, I mean, you definitely saw a lot more, items popping up. But I still think even towards the late game, it was, I mean, really, you start seeing the lack of the auction house was when I was getting, starting to find the Zunamasa's pieces and I was finding the rings and the boots, and I actually have like three of each, but I don't have, I really need the chest and the helm to kind of feel like to progress my, and I'm playing hardcore too, so it's like if I was playing softcore, I'd probably be on like Master 5 and just saying, screw it and just keep going on. But to press on in hardcore, I feel that I need the 4P Zunis, just like the same thing that I do on the PC version. But the problem is, it's like I'm playing, on the PS3 and I'm playing hardcore and on the console, and like trying to find anyone to trade with like some sort of legitimacy that isn't someone who's possibly duping stuff. Like I've tried going on, our forums and everything else, and it's just like nobody is really on there and like the trading thing. Whereas if it was an auction house, I'd be able to sell my extra rings and boots and then basically trade them, get the gold that I have, use that as the currency to purchase my chest and helm that I want. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, we'll see how it is on like, when you're actually trying to search for those set pieces and whatever trade system they put in there. But yeah, that's kind of like the lack of the auction house really does start to show as far as like when you're actually trying to trade and find items that you want, as opposed to, it's like, okay, I can build a character that has 200,000 DPS, but it's not perfectly the character that I want. It's missing a lot of, distinct pieces that I want. So when you start getting into that point where you want to build a character, um, that's kind of where the console lacks on it. You're kind of more just like you run what you brung, and that kind of determines your build. Which I don't know if that's what they're planning on doing with the expansion. Because they kept saying a lot of the legendary items are going to be build changing. And your build might center around the items that you find.
Well, I had that whole post this week where I did a debate with Katniss about the console stuff, and I kind of said what you just said to some degree that there's this sort of this item game and this economy game you get in the PC where you can find non-upgrades for you and sell them. Of course, you never find upgrades for you in the PC games. That's sort of irrelevant, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can find good stuff that you're not going to use yourself, and sell it for a nickel or a quarter or whatever, and then you get a bunch of those, and you can add up and buy the item you want for $1. And he was saying that that isn't really an issue, and that's a mindset of the PC player because you have to do that. But there's such good self finding in the console that he isn't really being bothered by that. And you're saying that's true unless you want to find you want your specific Stone of Jordan with just the right stats on it or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. I mean, you're looking for specific items. Something that you go to the auction house and you put up the six property searches. You're searching for four properties of an item or something along the lines of it, and you just can't. you just can't go into the game and expect to say like, oh, I want to go find myself a trifecta item because, and I mean, I guess I did find a trifecta item, but that's honestly the probably third or fourth trifecta item in, throughout even the PC that I've ever found. So it's kind of just like, but I mean, you can't find stuff like that. You have to like, I mean, you will eventually, but it's that if you're looking specifically for something, it's very hard when you actually have to go out and find it. So, I mean, I had the same problems in Diablo 2. I remember like I was trying to build a Kliegau set to build a melee Amazon, and I needed the sword or something, and I could never find the sword. I had to go around and like trade some guys for a chest that I had for like some other junk, and then eventually I got some other thing that I traded for a Kliegau sword on some guy after spamming for several days. So
So we've had this debate on past podcasts, basically worrying about what we're going to do with trading once the auction house is gone. And then there's always comments, people saying, "Well, you won't care. It's so much more fun to self-find." And maybe you can say, if you get X amount of joy from, you get 10 units of joy from self-finding an upgrade and 3 units of joy from buying an upgrade in the auction house. It's 3 times better. I mean, obviously you can't quantify it that far, but I don't want to know if we want to get into the whole speculative, we're just pulling straws out of our ass, guessing about what they're going to do to replace it. But what do you think, Xanth? I mean, at some point we're going to have no auction house in the PC version, and you haven't played enough console to really compare yet. But you hear what Rankil saying, and you hear what Katniss said in that debate. Are we going to miss the auction house? Are there going to be new trading systems we don't even know about? But what's going to happen?
I think there has to be more than just an elimination of the auction house. Because you kind of can't go from, full speed to nothing. We've become very accustomed as players being able to instantly gratify what we want immediately. And if we can't get it, we know we can just try to, work up the funds to get whatever it is that we wanted. Um, so there has to be something put in place to kind of give us something similar, or something that could help alleviate the desires for those items that we want, because there's always something we're going to want. And that's what the auction house did really, really well, was kind of, force us into, being able to go onto this trolley and be able to take the items that we needed. Um, Whereas, like you were saying, Rankhill, in D2, you kind of were at a loss if there was something that you really, really desired, but just, in every trade game you opened, either, you couldn't find it, or, the person who did have it wanted something ridiculous for it. There's got to be some sort of middle ground that they're kind of keeping close to the chest, and we saw that with what Josh had tweeted out a while ago in terms of what trading is like in Diablo. So there has to be something in there that they're kind of going to do to alleviate, so it's not WUG games, um, and it's not an auction house, but maybe it's something that's tied to the data mining of clans, or it's something that's completely integrated into these BattleNet profiles that we happen to have. Maybe it's just posting things that we have for trade, or whatever it happens to be, but there's got to be something that will allow us to seek out those items that are these build changing, or build making things, because I think of my characters as I've progressed through the game, and there's been arbitrary targets that I've set, like I want to reach this amount of DPS, and then like once I get there, there's always something else I want to keep getting. Um, and that's not going to change without an auction house, but now it's just a question of how do I get those items, and it's not going to come self-found. I think of, even with a change in drops, think of all the items that are out there and all those affixes that exist. There's no way that you're going to possibly be able to farm every single thing that's going to work for your particular build. There has to be that middle way to go about getting them, and I just hope they come up with something that works.
Are we going to find that out at BlizzCon?
I would hope so.
yeah, I would. I mean, who knows? I mean, really, there was when we had the discussion of the Gamescom stuff, and we thought they were going to give a slight teaser, and they pretty much opened up a larger gate of information than we expected. So, I would hope that at least at BlizzCon is going to kind of open the floodgates on the rest of the information of things that they have, especially with they released the Mystic blog, to have that to finally kind of nail down the details of it and say this is how the system is going to be, because they, even though they had told us really what the system was, they hadn't really come out to officially say this is the system and this is how it's going to work.
Although they didn't give us all the details, we don't know what those reagents were that she requires.
Oh yeah, I didn't. And I don't know because I actually I had made a YouTube video thing that kind of looked into the screenshots and stuff, but like the Echoing Fury that they actually had on there, the stat ranges on it were actually very similar to what you would see on a console item. So
Yeah, plus 450 to vitality and
yeah,
stuff.
well, it was a very high the plus damage roll on it, but the percent damage bonus was very low at like 7%, whereas most on the weapons, they roll up to 40, 50% or so. Um, so that, it's showing kind of what are the things that are going to be moving over, and, kind of where Xanth was talking about, so what happens when the auction house goes away, and when are they going to introduce the loot 2.0 stuff, but it's like, if basically, because that Echoing Fury, I looked back at, and like reversed the stats on it. I mean, it was a 1600 or so DPS Echoing Fury. Yeah,
Yeah, I
at a
find
level
those all the time
60.
though.
So,
You
yeah.
found 4 or 5 of those by now, right, Xanth?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how you're a billionaire. Me too.
And it
Disenchanting them all.
and it's kind of a thing. Well, it's like, okay, well, if pretty much at level 60 you're going to be finding some, 1500, 1600 DPS weapons, I mean, that pretty much would negate, all of the items that they currently have in the game. So it very well might make, everything, well, aside from maybe that crazy barb neck that sold for, what was it, like 200 some or 120 billion gold or whatever it was. That's probably about one of the only few items that will, still maintain to possibly even up to like level 70 levels of, gear.
So, slight change of topic. BlizzCon. They announced the panel schedule, and it was kind of funny. The guy who emailed it, right when it went up, somebody emailed the site's news and said, "Hey, this is the BlizzCon panel. There's only 2 Diablo panels. This kind of sucks." And I looked and there were 3 Diablo panels. I'm like, "Oh, they missed one, but that's still kind of crappy." And then I started writing the news item and posted in there and checked again before I posted it, and it was up to 5 Diablo panels. So they posted the list, then they continued populating it with other stuff. And I haven't looked back in the last few days. Maybe they've added some more, but when I last checked it, they had, the opening ceremony will obviously have Diablo 3 stuff in it. And then there's this Reaper of Souls cinematic panel, which will be story, which Nine Ball will enjoy and no one else will care about. And then there's a Reaper of Souls preview for a full hour on the main stage, and there's a lore and story Q&A. And the next day they've got a Diablo 3 gameplay systems, and then the Diablo 3 open Q&A, which is the best place if you want to hear someone ask about why the Necromancer's not in the game. But generally, there's not a whole lot of other really useful stuff at that. But we do have at least 2 panels on pure game content, which should be pretty juicy, and the cinematic and story stuff for Nine Ball. So, are you guys expecting big, exciting new things? I
Yeah,
mean, we mentioned this. Are they going to flesh out everything,
I
difficulty levels, and
I mean,
post auction house, and Paragon 2.0, etc.?
I've been saying it for a while, but I really do expect the release date announcement is here, and they give just about as much information as they possibly can.
Yeah, I would think
Yeah,
I mean,
setting up.
there's not much, like you were saying still there. I mean, as far as um, the information or whatever that's on there, I think gosh, there was one of the Warcraft panels, but yeah, it was like Warcraft, what's next? But I'm assuming that's because it seems they might be, announcing the next expansion. So that's probably going to be the expansion talk that's going to be on there. But I mean, they're talking about, the previews, the gameplay systems in the Crusader, and, kind of like the Q&A stuff on it, and then there's like the lore and story. But I mean, kind of like you said though, is that there's not much of them saying, like here's the economy discussion or something, or here's some other, because before I think I remember they had like I mean, because well, most of the gameplay panels when I went, it was very condensed with stuff, but I swear I thought they had stuff that was like splitting up the several components of the game, and this doesn't seem like they kind of just have these big general topics that they're talking about, and maybe it's just because the topics that they're discussing, they don't want to necessarily put them in the titles on there because they want them to be revealed at BlizzCon and they don't want it to be revealed beforehand. So, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, maybe they're going to do an announcement possibly of talking, because I mean, they're talking about doing the beta by the end of the year. So that might be something that they say, we're looking at doing the beta by this. We're anticipating possibly a release date at this, and who knows? Because the release date is starting to get speculated to tie with the auction house going down. But I think more or less that's just probably a Loot 2.0 time frame that we'll probably see, and then it'll still be, however long for them to. Because really, once they start the beta test, that can push back their anticipated release date. So I kind of don't think that they would give a release date without having a public beta first, because if you look back to the first beta test that they had, for the game, it kind of extended and extended and extended because they kept going through and changing around a lot of stuff to try different things. And I kind of feel that they want to do it right this time. And I think prematurely coming out and saying that the game's going to be released, that's going to put them into crunch time to release everything. I mean, unless everything that they have is ironed out, and they
So
just
you're saying Xanth is wrong?
possibly.
Wrong, wrong, wrong.
Well, I can't really say that he's wrong. I'm putting in my humble
I'm trying to
opinion.
create some conflict here. Say Xanth is wrong.
You're wrong, Xanth.
All right, fine, fine. If that's how it's
All right,
gonna be.
is Rankil wrong, Xanth?
I mean, I can understand it.
Come on, dude. Yes or no? Jesus Christ! I gotta get a cattle prod out here.
We're not gonna fight to the death. No, I mean, I can understand it. I mean, I think he has a good point. There was a year-long beta for, the first version. So, I mean, that's a valid point. Why mess it up by, making things worse and putting out a date that you can't hit? However, I do think that with all the stuff that we've seen in this build-up, that they might just go for the gusto and say you can expect it around then. Um,
Yeah.
like
Summer or something. They would say. You think
yeah,
or
I think if they're not going to give a solid date, then they could at least give the season.
Yeah.
Um,
I could see that. I could see them saying a season, and then at least it could be the last day, when they say it's the summer season, it's whatever the last date of summer before it changes over, they could technically release the game and it's still summer.
right.
well, it's still summer somewhere. It's summer in Australia.
Yeah.
Well,
They
the
they did
Diablo
not
2.
specify which summer.
Yeah, on which planet? Neither. It's summer in Jupiter for 17 months, so we have a wide window there. The Diablo 2, 3 beta started, and they were saying, 2012 second half was release date. Am I in the wrong year? 2011 second half was the release date. And then it went to first quarter 2012. Then it went to second quarter 2012, and it came out what May 14th, I think, or 15th.
Yep.
So,
The
as you guys were saying, there have been delays during beta tests, but they do seem to be really pushing themselves on this one.
Yeah, I think the only difference where I guess I could side with Xant saying that they would come out with it is that we're really only dealing with it's a very giant content patch. I mean, granted, yeah, the Loot 2.0 and everything else is a large change, but it's really just a matter of kind of adjusting the numbers to it. I think they already have. It seems like they might have a lot of the systems already in there, and it's really only adding, as far as content wise, it's adding one act into it. And it's a matter of once they get into the hands of people. I mean, they very well could, in 6 months come out and say, the beta is going to be, at the end of the year, and that's going to start up, and then sometime in the summer we'll release the game, because they've got the PS4 demos, which they said that they were never going to. They were going to specifically work on the PC version before they actually worked on the console version of the expansion, but they're demoing at BlizzCon the PS4 Reaper of Souls. So that very well itself could even be a hint to say, well, if they're already starting to now concentrate on the consoles enough that they have a playable demo version of it at
right.
BlizzCon, they very well might have the game a lot further than we kind of anticipate it. And it's more that they just had on their plan to say, okay, at Gamescom we're going to release a bunch of information. At BlizzCon we're going to release everything else that we have, and then the game's going to come out. But
Well, one rebuttal and a related point for discussion. First of all, this is Blizzard. They never ever give a date for anything more than like 3 weeks in advance.
yeah,
Except, of course, they told us when the auction house was shutting down 5 months in advance.
which
So
was
that's
which was surprising, because
Right.
to say the
yeah,
least.
that's one word for it.
But I think people were tying that the auction house going down. There's some sort of like fiscal marketing, or some sort of like there's some date that what it is, and that's like the last time that you can do a reporting for fiscal. I don't know, some sort of money. It's a money deal date that if you go beyond that date, it counts as like the next year. So they're basically just cutting off all financial ties to the auction house and the real money auction house at that date. So that's probably why they just specifically came out with the date, but whether or not we actually have a system for it, to replace basically once they remove the auction house, that's another story.
Yeah, I think as Xanth said earlier, they have to go to Loot 2.0 when they shut down the auction house, or otherwise it'll just be unhappy. That's on D3V, but I don't think that means that we'll see the re God, I can't talk. I'm totally zoning out here. We're not going to see the expansion at that point, unless you're Xanth, in which case you're very optimistic.
Well,
But I had a second point and I've forgotten it. Go ahead, Xanth.
well, I mean, I've said before. I mean, having the auction house go down, there has to be something that swoops in to take its place, and more than likely it's Loot 2.0. But in the the best of all worlds, it's Reaper of Souls and Loot 2.0 that kind of come in simultaneously. Um,
Yeah, on a pony,
yeah,
on a glowing sparkle pony.
which we all get for free. No $20 required.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that Reaper of Souls has to come in within a month or two after that at least. After some balancing time, and figuring out Loot 2.0 and what have you. So I really do think, and they've been stressing, they've been really saying that this BlizzCon is going to be a great one for Diablo. What could make it better than giving a better picture of exactly when this is going to happen, um, or at least a window for when it will.
You know what'd be better? Jay Wilson coming back. Oh wait, that wouldn't be better.
I
Better.
mean, if you look at the schedule for that first day for BlizzCon too, you know, we have the World of Warcraft, which is at the noon slot. Um, and then they kind of tick down the games. You have Diablo, which comes in at 3:30 to 4:30. It's Rebirth Souls preview. Um, the World of Warcraft is more like what it says. What's next? You have just chats and overviews of the other game. Something about the word preview. I don't know, and maybe I'm just going into semantics. Kind of really makes me think of you preview something before it's just about ready, right? Um, Maybe that's the hint that it's just about ready. This is our overlook, and what do you think? And we'll be ready to ship it out spring. That's what I'm going for, spring.
So you're a big fan of the game and the whole industry and stuff, Xanth. So what panels are you going to go to first at BlizzCon?
I was thinking about none. Sadly,
Ah,
uh,
ah.
yeah.
Here, join me in this one, Rankil.
Uh,
Ah. What are you going to be doing at BlizzCon, Rankil?
um,
Because you actually are going there, unlike certain other people who aren't really fans.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I'm going with one of my friends who plays, I play Diablo with, but he's very sick of it and he's pretty much waiting for the expansion. So at least we'll be looking. I have someone to spurg out over Diablo related things with. But then my third friend, he's more of kind of a socially guy in World of Warcraft, and he's kind of into Hearthstone, but he has no interest into Diablo 3. He's I'm probably going to look out at now it's what Heroes of the Storm, which was Blizzard All Stars, which was Blizzard Dota. So I don't know, that maybe change the name again by the next time the game actually comes out. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to try and go to. I don't think I'll go to the Reaper of Souls preview mainly because it's on the main stage, and I probably at that point on Friday I'm going to be trying to play like a lot of games, but I want to try and get into the gameplay systems in Crusader one because that's a lot better of getting into the nitty gritty details of things. Plus, it even shows like their design process and stuff. Like I always like watching those videos. Like they had the what was it, Wyatt and Christian when they were doing their presentations about like this is how we go through designing things and this is why we had this and this is the all the stuff that we went through in the processes where they people just assume and say, oh, this system is garbage, you guys don't know what you're doing, and it's like, well, we tried like 10 systems before we came to this one, and like here's what we did, and then people are like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense. So but yeah, I mean, pretty much that. I mean, I might check out that Hearthstone exhibition thing or something like that, and probably there's gonna be a bunch of people yelling for Crypt to make a porno or something like that because apparently that's what they love doing on the stream. But I don't know. I mean, we'll see that. Probably bang some of those clacker sticks together for StarCraft stuff and just be annoying, and just in general. Hopefully, I don't get smothered by horrible smells, which was the last experience that I had in BlizzCon. Was like every once in a while it was like walking through a giant cloud of just unbathed people.
It wasn't like that. It was that.
Yeah. So
Is it going to be hard to getting your giant foam costume through baggage check, or are you just going to put it together once you get there?
I actually had considered of being like, oh, I could make a
No,
cool
you
witch
didn't.
doctor mask or something. But then
No,
I'm
you
like,
weren't. You never thought about that for 1 minute. Come on, be
no, I
serious.
thought about it, but it
No,
was
you
more
didn't.
the, like you said, the transport stuff and whatever. And then I'm like, but it's going to be pretty ridiculous walking around with like a giant witch doctor mask on or something. But my friend,
And
he said he's
that's why
going to,
Xanth's not going.
my
He
friend
couldn't
said
think
he's
of
going
a
to
witch
grow out
doctor
his
mask.
beard and be a monk. And I'm like, you're not going to do that.
Well, he better get started. Either that, or he can be a relief pitcher for the Boston Red Sox.
It's true. He could be.
There's the connection to the intro.
Yeah. So, are you gonna watch this live stream, Xanth, or are you just gonna
Uh,
wait for them to go up on YouTube and then Parasite?
no, I do have the live stream. So I do have that nice ability, which, will be as close as I can get, sadly. Yeah, so I want to obviously rake in all the Diablo news I can. And this is the only way I can do it right now.
I am planning on spending most of my time in the press room playing the demo machine where there's no line, hopefully. And also, that's a really good place to scope out the really gorgeous Korean girls who go there to report on StarCraft. Kind of amazing, you in the press room, and they'll be like, it's like 100, it's like 89%, guys who you would expect to see in the press room at BlizzCon for a video game convention. And then there's like these leggy, like designer outfit wearing Korean women who they just go there to talk about StarCraft, and they're like the on-air personalities. It's like Aaron Andrews at a halftime show of an ESPN football game. It's like it's just a sausage fest with like these really gross, like, offensive coordinators, and there's some hot blonde they hired to stand in front of the microphone with the camera.
You need to get me in
So
on
we'll,
that.
yeah, I'll send you a picture. And yeah, and hopefully playing. I find it hard. I want to go into the data mining next thing here, and I find it hard to really theory craft the Crusader having not played the character. So I look at the data mining of his skills, and this is changing, and it's going up, and 87% damage or whatever. I'm like, but I've never used it. It's hard for me to even put that into conceptual sense.
Well,
So I'm really hoping to spend some time playing the Crusader and get a better idea about him.
yeah, that's a thing too, is with in the last data mine where they basically, Jay Wilsoned and doubled everything as far as damages. I kind of don't understand the why they're doing that. I mean, again, it is their test build, and there's a lot of things that were being added and subtracted, throughout. There's kind of these like progression things that you see, but a lot of like the game content stuff is getting changed around in the skills. But like you were saying, even with the Crusader, I remember before the game came out and they released the skill calculators. So everybody could go on and look at the skill calculators and be like, "Oh, this is going to be a cool character build and everything else." And like, people were making fetish summon things and all this other stuff. But until like you said, you actually sit down and play the character to realize like, oh, the proc rate on, fetish psychopants is terrible, and is not a good passive for you to have. And you didn't think that you were going to have this entire fetish army following you around. It's stuff like that, until we actually get to, physically play. But even then, I don't even know really what they're going to have as far as for us to play. It might be similar to the Gamescom demo where they just kind of have this like, I think it was like a mid 30s guy or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
Well, you're playing Act 5, so you can't be level 7 to start it with, right? So
yeah,
you have
so
to be someone appropriate for the act.
yeah, and I mean, but still, even once we get to play with it, I don't know because when I went to the first BlizzCon, I really didn't think of like I opened up the skill panes when I was playing, and this was back when they had the individual runes for the skills, and you leveled up, and it was kind of like a tree, so you got to pick certain skills and put points,
Yeah,
and they
also known as the good old days.
yeah, and I mean it was it was good when you were doing that, and you kind of like you got to level 5, and you're something where it was like 7, you chose one of two skills, and then you just kind of like leveled it up. But I didn't really think of like on the PvP side one because those were all level 60 characters. I mean, I opened them up and I looked at the skills and they had a rune that was dropped into them, but I didn't really think to like, oh, let me just change this out to something else because I don't even know if the system itself supported that. I think I was still on the Diablo 2 mentality of like, oh, these are just locked in skills and there's no way for me to respec or whatever. But I'm gonna try and do that and just really mess around and more or less I'm gonna try and break the character and see what I can do differently. And just do something. It's like the first time through, it'll just be like play through, go through as fast as I can to try and get to the end in like the 15 minutes that they give you. Because usually, at the end of it, there was like the one I went to in 2010. You killed the warden, but then it like you went down and where you went to
The little bonus room,
yeah,
yeah.
and it was like congratulations, Diablo 3, and then meteors fall down to the sky and your character dies. And it was, so I'll get to that, but then afterwards there it'll be like start looking through the cracks of things and like noticing how much they're, how much this actual randomization of the city is. looking at the actual stats of the weapons, looking through every single one of the skills to see what they are and what they do, see if I can change skills, etc.
Yeah, I've mentioned it in the past in write-ups and stuff, but you really get it's a weird mentality when you're playing at the show floor. You've only got 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and you just everyone afterwards people are like asking you, why don't you look at other skills? Why don't you look at the item stats? And you just don't even think about it. Like you're in such a hurry to get through the content, and you want to see new things and you want to try different builds. Like the first year the Demon Hunter was available, I wasn't in the press room that year. I guess that was '09. Was that no
That
10?
was
Was
10,
that
yeah.
year? And you could only you had whatever four skills to start with, and there were like five other skills you could choose from, and you got one level up on that demo as your character leveled up, and you got a new skill slot. So basically, each time you play the demo, you could try out one additional skill,
Yep.
and I was just racing through it. Okay, I got to try grenades. Oh, I got to try rapid fire. Whatever. And you just don't even look at like the names of monsters or the stats of things to some degree. You're just like you just want to play so fast because you have a limited time.
Yeah, and you really can't sit and like take photos of things because which really is what I don't understand is it's like it's public information of they're letting people play it, but they don't want people like taking photos of things and of screenshots or whatever. And that's kind of
Yeah, they just want to control the message.
yeah. And I mean, I guess understandably too is because it's still unfinished systems and they don't want something going out and then people are like, well, at BlizzCon at the demos, these guys he did 10,000% damage on one hit with this, and it's like, why isn't it there anymore? So,
Yeah.
I mean, but we'll see. I don't know. I mean, the size of the stuff that they said, I think there was 300 or so computers they were talking about that were, specifically for Diablo 3, which, if I remember, like in 2010, I mean, you really only had kind of the PvE side, and then there was the PvP side. But I mean, there was probably, I mean, not even, I mean, no more than 200, but I mean, I would even say there was like 150 computers. So the fact that they're putting a lot more computers there makes it kind of interesting to see, the level of what they have for them to demo.
Yeah, I didn't count machines. I think there was a lot though. I mean, there were like five rows that were like 20 computers on each side of each row, double-sided kind of thing. I don't know. I should have counted. But I think people were a little disappointed when they listed the number of machines because people were saying, "Oh, that's not going to be enough to have PvP and the PvM." But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
I don't expect PvP. I mean, we've had all this data mining and there hasn't really been much on PvP yet. But speaking of data mining, you just mentioned that the last patch, the whole concept is weird to me because they're doing this testing for Reaper of Souls on a server, and you can't get in and test it because you don't have passwords and access and stuff. But you can data mine every bit of it, and they're not trying to hide it. I mean, it's not like it was a one-time leak. We're actually going to have the entire Diablo nut thing, our database. It's going to be running on Reaper of Souls in like a week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, running on the test version that's on their server right now. It's not just data mining. You'll be able to actually look at it and see every item, every stat, every skill the way it currently is on this test server, which is weird given that it doesn't exist yet. I mean,
Yeah.
it's obviously they announced it, but it's really strange to me they're not making any effort to hide it, and that's the only thing that makes me think that some of Xanth's insane predictions for it being out so soon. Maybe they're not trying to hide it because obviously it's giving it promotion amongst the fans who know about it and are looking at sites that have data mining.
Well, the only thing that's, I guess, against that is the amount and the swift
The amount
changes
of
that they're
changes they're
doing.
making, yeah.
Yeah, because they're not fine tailoring things. It's not like, oh, we're, putting 20% on one skill here. It's like every skill gets changed. Every skill gets, every rune is getting changed drastically. And I mean, there was one, I mean, when I was briefly looking over, I think the last one with the witch doctors, they had soul harvest. It was changed from a static, it's 100 and whatever, intellect that it adds, and they changed it to 2%. Everyone's freaking out on the forums for it. They're like, "This is a terrible nerf. Oh my gosh!" But it's like, do you guys realize that at probably level 70, you're gonna have 6,000 intellect? So 2% of 6,000 intellect is 120 intellect, which is basically what the skill is right now. So you know, it's not really a nerf, but in a way, I think almost percentage based is better because then it scales, of on your character instead of having a flat increase. But then again, I mean, even coming from myself playing as a witch doctor, like soul harvest is one of those abilities that never leaves the bar of a witch doctor, and any witch doctor that doesn't have on their bar is just, they're, I don't know why they would not put that skill on there. I mean, it's one of like the most powerful abilities that they have. So
Yeah, so data mining. So Xanth, jumping on the data mining here. Have you been paying attention to it? Are there skills are you reading a lot into it now, or you think it's such a work in progress, there's not that much to even concentrate on yet?
It kind of a little bit of both. I think with each new round that comes around, I get very interested. I like to look. I like to see the flashy new numbers, look at the new skills. I really like to take a look at obviously the classes that I have the most interest in. So Witch Doctor and Monk are at the top of my board. That's what I want to see first, and then maybe kind of filter into a wizard or a demon hunter and see if there's anything there that would maybe draw me into that class. I've actually been trying to pay a lot more attention to the demon hunter ones because I'm looking for something that would give me an excuse to play them or to play them more. Um, so far, nothing. But maybe someday. But
You realize they dress in black though, right?
ooh, uh,
And they're gothic.
is there? Do they wear heels?
Only the man.
Okay. Well, nah, I'm not sure.
They
Um,
have a little Napoleon complex, so they try to overcome that.
No, but I think you're right. On the other side of the coin, it's like for everything that could get excited, you could get excited about, you do then have to kind of rein it in and say, yeah, this is really cool right now, but one, I'm not seeing it actually in game, so I don't even know if I would actually use it. And two, this could easily change by next week or the week after. Um, so it's something that I'm interested in, but I'm not like taking, as I guess I'm not taking it as legit just yet, and um, I'm still going to keep checking. I'm definitely excited to see new things, and each new iteration I kind of think gets closer to being the final build. But I don't know. I'm just really waiting for the beta to kick in before I kind of stick to anything and say, yeah, now I'm excited for this.
You have to kind of agree with that. I would go into that more, but I'm coughing here badly off mic, so need to kind of wrap this up. Um, I had two other topics. Oh, the Westmarch. Is it gothic enough? Do you look forward to being able to actually physically shit bats in Diablo 3 expansion?
I guess, this whole gothic versus non-gothic and the whole color controversy, I was never really vested in it. I guess I'm one of the few that didn't really have any problems with the way Diablo 3 is set up in terms of the darker tone or what have you, aside from the general storytelling with, Asmodan popping up every 2 seconds to say stuff to you. I guess I never really had too much of a problem saying, though, it's not dark enough, it's not gothic enough. Um,
Okay, you're off the podcast.
sorry. But
This is Xanth's farewell podcast, everybody. Say bye-bye.
Well, I'm probably going to get kicked off then as
He's a
well because I
heretic.
basically agree with that.
I like this guy. Um,
And you wear black at all times, right? And you're goth and emo, and you have special wings.
Yeah, but
Do you have the Diablo 3 the collector's edition wings?
yeah, I do.
Then you're goth.
Yeah, I must be. It's just, I mean, going along with the colors and things like that. I mean, there are, yeah, I mean, I guess people are comparing it to Diablo 1, where you just kept going deeper and deeper into hell. I mean, yeah, of course it's going to get deeper and deeper and it's going to get more like gothic and cryptic and whatever it is. But like, there's the areas of the game where you're actually outside and they're like, there's only so many ways that you can just dive yourself down into a dungeon that goes 16 levels deep. So you have to at least at some point in time go outside, and go other places. And there's actually color, there's grass in places and plants, but people are just not accepting of that. But I don't know. I think pretty much I don't care what the environment is. It's just the whole ragdoll system just makes up for everything. I just love hitting stuff and having guys flailing around all over the place. And I mean, there is plenty still of the gothic of all the things where there's dead bodies and even in the like the cathedral when I was playing in the demo or the beta rather when people were complaining about it wasn't gothic enough and I'm walking by and I'm like there's a dude on the wall, he's got a spear through his chest and he's like held up against the wall because something basically put him up there. I'm like, I don't know about how much more gothic you want it to be. I mean, maybe he needs to like wear white face paint, and be like Marilyn Manson style or something. I mean, I don't know what people are looking for, but it's like that's pretty, messed up of where they're like, hey, go in this dungeon and kill the skeleton king. Oh, just ignore all the dead bodies that are littered all over the place and stuck up against the wall. But just it's okay. It's not gothic enough, for you. So continue on.
Ambiance.
Yeah.
They want Matt Ullman's music back too. Actually, I want that also.
Yeah, I would want that too though, but That's I guess I don't
Okay.
know. There was they had released. I didn't listen to it all, but a lot of people have been saying I guess good things about the leaked soundtrack, as well. So
Yeah, so last question. Halloween is coming up this week. Are either of you dressing as a Diablo character?
negative.
No.
You have a spawn, Xanth, a
Um,
small two-year oldish child.
yeah, I do.
Is he going to
He
be going as Aaron Rodgers again this year?
no, he went
You,
our
you know, if he was Aaron Rodgers, you know what you could do with him?
what?
A discount diaper check.
Oh, that's awful.
But
Yeah, well, that's what so are diapers. Do you feel that Diablo 3 and the Diablo series in general is held back from Halloween costumes by not having any children characters other than maybe Hakan II, who was not really Belial?
Um,
It's kind of limited. You know, like you see some games and they have these cute little kid characters, like everyone dresses as the minions from Despicable Me or something. Obviously, not quite the same genre there, but
right. No, actually, we had our trick-or-treating last night, and my son went as Iron Man, so I was still proud.
I'm sure he was the only young boy in the entire area with
yeah,
Iron Man costume on, right?
Surprisingly, not a lot, but he definitely was the cutest. So
Well,
hard to
so
argue
hidden
with that.
behind a giant mask, he was the cutest.
Yeah, pretty much.
And was he an Aaron Rodgers Iron Man or just an Iron Man?
No, he was Aaron Rodgers today
Okay, good.
because I mean, it's game day. So
If you guys had to wear a costume, I'm not saying you have to spend 6 months building it and then get hired to be the Hearthstone community manager. But if you just gotta have, you can magically wave a wand, and I guess you'd be a wizard then, or Harry Potter.
yeah,
Which would you be? And I'm assuming male, although I guess you can be female if you want.
yeah. It'd be kind of weird being a female demon hunter. I mean, are you talking like as an actual like one of the playable characters, or
You
if
have
it
to go to
was?
a you have to, I'm not this isn't not magic. You're going to a Halloween party and you gotta be one of the Diablo 3 characters or any character from the game. You can be Hadrig if you want, you know. Of course nobody know who you were, but
I mean, if I had a limitless supply of stuff and I was some sort of visual effects shop and I was able to build one, I would actually build like I would want myself to be Asmodon. That would be one just it would be impractical. You wouldn't be able to fit through
on
the
your
door.
crab
Yeah,
legs,
you wouldn't be able to fit through the door, but I would make it so
well
you'd have
sideways.
like the crab legs and could walk around or whatever. But yeah, it's like I mean, if you're talking a limitless, the guys who actually come up with the costume contests with that they work in costume shops for making movie costumes or whatever, and those are the people that win the contest. But like yeah, but if I was to play something that was just a simpler or whatever, it was more where I was talking about a witch doctor, because really all you need is like a big huge gigantic mask, a dagger, some sort of weird like you know mojo of some sort, because it really doesn't matter. It could be a dead cat to snakes to whatever, and then you're just wearing like some tattered cloth, really.
and a
And
mild case of Parkinson's.
Yeah, and then just being like,
and and purple body paint,
yeah,
yes. So what would you be dressed as, Xanth?
I guess yeah, I'll go the dual route, unlimited, funds or whatever. Probably Angel Tyrael, not human Tyrael, where he's all kind of lame. I want glowing wings, and I mean the same reason I want the collector's edition wings because they're awesome. And then should just go the normal route. Probably the male monk because I can't argue with a sweet beard. And then
and
just
some giant anal beads around your neck.
yeah, I mean that'd be pretty sweet. And then just shave my head and I'd be good to go.
What
And
about you,
Impressive.
Flux? You asked
I
the
would be
question.
Leah so I could finally see her naked. Wait, what? I'd probably well the main I guess it depends on how realistic you're being. I mean, like the Asmodan thing is cool, but from what people have said, any costume that's elaborate that you can't go to the bathroom in is like a bad idea.
Oh yeah, it's
And if it's a Halloween costume, well, I guess you can go to the bathroom in it, but I mean, and before you're really, really drunk, you can't go to the bathroom in it.
maybe you just wear Depends in there, and then you don't have to
Yeah,
worry about it.
exactly. Well, I think Asmodan does also,
Yeah.
so you could just, leave it behind you like a crab. And also, anything you can't easily talk or drink while wearing is also a problem for a Halloween costume. So I guess Tyrael, you can have a straw or something, right?
right,
A little straw through your black, faceless, opaque garment.
yeah, I like that.
So there you go. I don't even know what I would do. The question just popped into my mind, and I don't know. I feel like I'm making an editorial statement by what I choose to wear. I'd probably be some obscure NPC, and everyone would be like, "Who the hell are you?" And then I could explain the lore, like, like the guy who gives you the the guy you see sometimes before you get to the spider caves, who gives you the potion to take down the steps to the hermit. Like you see him like once every 100th game, and it's like the most useless quest in the game.
That was funny
It's
because
like,
when you mentioned that, that was the first guy that popped into my mind before you even
you know what
explained
his name
him.
is?
I don't know what his name is, but yeah,
Me either.
it's
I don't even know what he looks
is
like,
that
but
yeah.
I just like his quest is carry this 20 feet.
Yeah.
That's his quest.
It's like there's a guy over there, he needs this potion, and yeah, go
Like I
give
could
it
just
to him.
roll it down the hill to him, you
Go give
know.
it to him. Be like, which guy? Be like that guy right down there, and like the hermit guy is all just like, "Ah." It's like, I mean,
The
maybe he's
first game
afraid
I
of him.
played on launch day, Ellie and I played it live streaming on the European server to get an 8-hour head start, and we got that quest, the first game ever. And I was like, oh, this must be a common thing. I didn't see it again for like 5 months, you know. It was like, what the
Oh,
hell?
you notice
What are the
another
odds that
thing
I got this
is
thing the first time
going
ever?
between Halls of Agony 2 and the Cursed Hold. When you first go out, there's a guy that's like he ends up being, I think, a
Yeah.
vendor or whatever it is. You end up fighting a champ pack and a name boss guy at the end of it. But like that guy is just as rare, if not, I'd probably say rarer. So
But he was in the 2010 or 9 demo. You saw him every single time, so it was kind of weird not seeing him afterwards.
yeah.
Anyway, we're digressing here, and I need to go drink more cold medicine. So, any final thoughts, guys?
No.
No, just looking forward really to BlizzCon. I mean, that's kind of the next thing that's on the radar. I mean, that hopefully opens up the floodgates on the rest of the information that we have. And I mean, really, really, really just want to anticipate a beta so at least we can see some people actually playing the game. You know, I'm not one of those people that says, "Oh my gosh, I've purchased, so many Blizzard games and I'm entitled to a beta key. How come I don't have one?" But I'm more just
You do podcasts too. You do
yeah,
podcasts
yeah,
and videos, and you stream.
yeah.
Obviously, you're entitled to two beta keys.
Yeah, it's like I mean, I just put my name in the hat and I'm happy if I get accepted into it, and if I don't, then, at least nowadays with streaming and stuff like that, I can, live through other people who are playing the game and I can, see what's going on. But um
Vicariously.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. If I get in the beta, I played the beta a ridiculous amount though for D2, so if I got into it or not for D2 for the Diablo 3 rather, but the yeah, I don't know. It's just we'll see. I mean, it's kind of right now is it's a waiting game because we know that no content's going to be coming at least until whatever March. There's sometime around then. I mean, unless they release Loot 2.0 and everything super early.
PTR might be in the PTR before then.
That's true.
That
Yeah,
doesn't
well,
really
that is the
count
thing.
though.
No, that is the thing because they were planning on putting Loot 2.0. They said on the PTR, so at least for the general public can play expansion related content without actually being in the expansion. So that would be kind of interesting. Is if they open up the beta, but then they'll probably open up actually the PTR at the same time. Come to think of it, because it's kind of the same thing of as far as balancing and everything else. So.
Any final thoughts, Xanth, or are we good?
Kind of the same thing. I mean, I think the beta, while they've never formally said like the beta will be out this year, you kind of can view it as, a window into the whole development process. And we know how long Diablo 3 finally took to get from beta to release. And, is their goal of a beta this year still plausible? And are they able to hit that goal? And that's kind of one of those signs. And if they are, maybe we're headed in the right direction in terms of a quick development cycle as opposed to a very, very extended beta and reiteration process. So I'm looking forward to BlizzCon, but I'm more looking forward to what happens as a result of BlizzCon than anything.
Anything, huh? Well,
Yeah,
that's a high bar to clear, but
I don't know.
you just were waiting for my Crusader report, really. That's all you care about. You just want to
Exactly.
hear
I
what
mean,
Flux thinks about playing Sword Boy.
well, I do have to say, I am really considering dropping the Witch Doctor and going right into the Crusader and going from 1 to 70 instead of doing the trip from 60 to 70. And I'm going to base that decision entirely off of what you write, Flux.
Yes. The thing is, you'll probably get to play the Crusader a bunch in the beta, so it won't be like the whole new thing.
Yeah, I
So,
suppose, but it might still entice me. I'm hoping it does.
yes, well, I'll do my best. And okay, you've been listening to the Diablo podcast. We are online at diablo8gamers.com, and I'm going to go sneeze for a while now.
Moo?
Get well
Moo.
soon. Moo.
Less moo.
The happy moo level.
Moo.
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 Okay, guys, thanks for your thing.
Moo.